Tell me what your reaction was to the sad message the judge.
Well, me personally is not surprised of this actual sentencing, being that I know that the president of the police union made it a discretionary call to represent JOHANNES MESERLE, who is an ex-police officer. Unprecedented. Everything in this case has been unprecedented. The reason why he did that was because of the significance that this case meant to police officers across the United States. This whole intent was to do the best fight so that he would not be incarcerated or receive any prison time. And if I go on to evaluate this whole criminal justice system, yes, I believe it's a racist criminal justice system. This is the biggest prison population in the world. 80% of the men in prison are people of color. This is true and it's a fact. In the last 20 years, we've been built, just in the state of California, 22 prisons. And predominantly, those that are incarcerated are African Americans and brown men. That is a fact. So therefore, this whole case had to do with this criminal justice system. You've never heard the family at one time in any of our statements called JOHANNES MESERLE a racist. We were appalled at what he did, and we stated clearly we expected an apology. For the 2-year time period, he never gave an apology. And even in his own written statement, he stated that he would not have done what he had done had Oscar been resisting. The judge said that he truly believed that Meserle was remorseful, but he must didn't hear that Meserle said that, I'm not saying that I really made a mistake in the sense that I should be remorseful. What I did was because of the result of Oscar Grant. He did not take responsibility for his actions. He never stated that. He put it back on Oscar. He put it back on the young men on the platform. And the sad note is that we have a judicial figure who tend to say the exact same thing. It is clear to the world that there was a problem on that platform, but it is not clear to the people of color that them young men were the cause of their own death, Oscar's death on that platform.
Do you think this argument is blaming Oscar?
Of course, Judge Perry himself said that he is clear that Oscar was resisting arrest. So the judicial system is saying, yes, Oscar is at fault.
Did you hear an apology in Meserle's statement to your family?
I heard a fake apology in the sense that had Oscar not been resisting, Meserle would have never thought about using his taser. That's what he said in his statement. He did not take blame for the simple fact that he made a mistake. He said his mistake came from Oscar not giving his hands to him.
He kept saying he was sorry, though. Did he ever say he was sorry to your family?
He's never ever directed his apology to the family specifically. He said he was sorry for what he did, and thereby he have to suffer nightly with these so-called fears of what occurred. But he never said specifically, as one would when they make a mistake, that I'm sorry for what I did to you.
Cephas, when you heard that sentence come down, what was the first thing that went through your head?
Well, you heard my impact statement. I knew what the judge was going to say before he even said it, because he made it clear through the jury instructions argument. I sat in that room. This whole thing was argued before we even got to this point today. It could have been resolved way before we got here, but it was simply left out to be brought up today to become an issue in this case.
Bobby is 2 years not left.
I mean, we're talking about murder. And if a man goes to prison for killing a dog and he gets 4 years, then of course 2 years is not enough.
Where do you go from here?
Well, I mean, of course, we've already contacted the Department of Justice, and we're going to take it to the next level to ensure that some form of justice is brought, hopefully through the Department of Justice.
Let me just say this.
It would have been easily, simply said to the family of Oscar Grant, to the mother of Oscar Grant, to the daughter of Oscar Grant, fiance of Oscar Grant, I am, MESERLE, truly sorry for what I've done. That wasn't said. Well, that's when a person make a mistake and they say they're making apologies, that's how you say it.
Had you heard that, would you have accepted the 2-year sentence?
Delayed justice is no justice. Delayed apology is no apology. Had he made an apology tonight on that platform, there was no legal restraints against him for not making an apology, it would have been accepted. Had he made an apology the second night, because there was no legal restraint against him to not make an apology, it would have been accepted, and most likely as a family who we are would have been forgiven. When he sat on that jury box and began to testify, he did not acknowledge the family, nor did he even imply that he was apologetic for what occurred. And when Rita Williams on KTVU did an exclusive interview with JOHANNES MESERLE, allowing him to express to the community and to Judge Perry about what occurred, he not one time in any of those exclusive interviews, and we're talking about for almost a week, acknowledged the family or even stated he was sorry. And then today in court, we didn't hear no apology. There, this is the difference between people of color and those that are not of color. He saw remorsefulness. If you ask any man or any person of color, did they see any remorsefulness, and you will not hear them say yes.
You know, one of the things that go to this, I thought, in listening to the judge's analysis, that he was an apologist for MESERLE. When he says that MESERLE did not apologize initially because there might have been legal issues involved, the truth of the matter is there were no legal issues involved. On the night in which this happened, when he spoke to Peroni, he spoke to other people, he later spoke to his friend, Officer Foreman. 2 or 3 days later, he continued to speak to Officer Foreman. There were no legal issues and restraints. And at no time did he ever mention that he had gone for a taser, that he had made a mistake. And that is the most appalling aspect of this case to me, because I believe the evidence suggests to me, and I wrote this to the judge, that this was a fraud that's been perpetrated on the court itself. It's fraudulent conduct, and that he never said in the first few days after this event that he, in fact, was reaching for his taser. If it were true, he would have said it that night. He would have said it to the officers who saw him that night. He would have seen it the next day and the day after that. We wouldn't have heard it for the first time in the middle of this trial. And that's the most offensive part of this whole case to me. And the judge bought it, and the jurors bought it.
Anything to say, see this with family or supporters, to the people of Oakland tonight who might be inclined to react in a negative way to this tonight?
I'm not worried about what's going on in Oakland. Look at these young men who were with Oscar Grant, who was murdered right in front of, these are the young men that were with Oscar Grant. I'm not worried about what's going on in Oakland. I'm worried about these young men. And another thing, the judge said he will not let race determine this case. Oscar Grant was called a nigger 3 times before he was murdered. So how's that not playing a role in this murder?
The judge only wanted to hear what he wanted to hear. Okay? All right. Yes. Okay? Thank you. She's obviously very, very upset, although there's a degree of resignation. I mean, we all, I've told everyone, look, to be real frank, this is America. Don't expect real justice. We may want it, but it doesn't necessarily happen. So this was an affirmation of that. So to some extent, you have expectations, but at the same time, you fortify and protect yourself against the inevitable fall. And so she was prepared that way.
You heard us say as a family from day one that we've been a peace-loving family. We also recognize that there can be no peace without justice. And really, we all know
there appeared to be a brief struggle. Then, a 2-year veteran BART officer stands, draws his weapon, and fires. After the fatal shot, you can see the officers react to what just happened.